In this video, we're going to talk about 10 questions that you should ask yourself about your channel management setup or when you're implementing a new channel manager. Hello and welcome to another Hotel Techie video. I'm Alicia from Hotel Spider, and if you're looking to get your hotel tech related questions answered, you're in the right place. On this channel, we share our know-how about hotel technology with you. This video is part of a mini-series about channel management, and we're really going to go into very detailed setup discussions. The goal is to either help you when evaluating a system or to optimize your current setup. If you're new to channel management and you haven't ever worked with a channel management system, I recommend you check out first the basic and advanced channel management video we published on this channel, and then you can come back to this one for more details. For this video, I have invited an expert in channel management, and I hope he can help me to answer my questions. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Shopik. Thank you for taking the time. Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. It's great to be here. Thank you. I have different questions and topics around hotel channel management that I would love to discuss with you and get your opinions on. Let's go start with number one. When I start working with a new channel manager, who's involved in that project and who has what responsibility? That's a great question. I think as with any change project, it's normal that whenever you change to a new technology or you change providers, that there is some friction and some challenges. So it's crucial to know who the stakeholders are in the project and to know what their role is precisely from the beginning. You as the customer are probably going to be the project owner. Then you'll have obviously your channel management provider involved, but of course also your PMS, the OTAs, your webmaster, maybe your booking engine provider if it's a different one, and also your IT department internally. Then also your reception or reservation staff and anyone that works on a regular basis with the technology will have to be involved. And it's really crucial that you as the project owner understand each role, each provider's role, what they have to do and when, but also that each of the stakeholders actually know what's going on and what their part is to play. And the clearer that is from the beginning, the smoother the project is going to go and the easier it's going to be for you. Very interesting. Thank you. My second question is, as a hotel, how can I select the right platforms for my distribution and to sell my property? Yeah, that's a question I get often. I really think it depends so much on what kind of property you are. My first recommendation is always to make sure that your direct booking strategy is really working well. And then look at the big international OTAs, because they're really independent of what kind of property you are. It will give you more reach, broaden your reach, and bring you reservations. But then if you look specifically at platforms like the GDS, it's really most relevant for hotels that have a lot of corporate business around them and that work with negotiated rates. The country or also the region, often they have tourism boards, and being present on these platforms can also be very relevant for especially tourists coming to the country looking for things to do in the region. And then you have all these kinds of niche platforms. It can be for biking holiday, family holiday, weekend retreats, and there really very much depends what kind of property you are and what is relevant to you. And really there isn't one very clear answer. You have to evaluate that for each property. That's very interesting. A lot of options. Thank you very much. My next question is about integrating platforms. What do I have to be aware of when connecting with a new platform? Yeah, make really sure that you know the limitations of each interface that you're working with. It's changed, but then also don't forget what happens with the reservation import, but also modifications and cancellations. How do they get handled? And on the other hand, it's also important to see what are the frequencies of updates. Is the system updating any kind of change? And also how long do changes take to be processed in the system? I think the more you know about these details, the more you're aware of the limitations of interfaces, the less you're going to have surprises or something's going to happen that you don't expect. There are still a lot of limitations to be aware of. Okay. My next question is about what kind of access and control do I as a hotel need over my channel manager? Yeah, in my opinion, it's really crucial, especially in the beginning phase, but actually during the whole time working with the channel manager, that you have control and you can make changes in the system yourself. Really, the more control you have over a platform, the less dependent you are on the specific provider. Let's make an example. You want to start selling a non-refundable rate on the OTA platforms. Can you add a new rate, configure it, maybe derive the rates, and then map it and connect it to the OTAs? Or can you not do that by yourself? If you are dependent from the provider, and that's sometimes the scenario, you can work with that, but really make sure that you know, how do you make a request like this? What will it cost you? And how long will it take to be implemented? Again, the more control you have, the less you're really dependent on the provider. What booking rules and conditions do I manage, and where do I do that best? Again, depending on the channel manager, your PMS, and the platforms you're connecting to, there will be a big variety, and they will manage different booking rules and handle different booking rules differently. Here, really, my recommendation is any parameter that you manage dynamically. So if you're often changing lengths of stay or arrival restrictions, make sure try to manage these in your PMS from one central place where all of your staff, everybody knows how to manage it. Then obviously there are limitations. A lot of platforms manage restrictions such as lengths of stay, but also meal plans, cancellation policies, things like that on rate level. And you cannot manage them through the API. Others let you do it. Just really make sure that you have a clear idea and push for all parameters that you change on a regular basis, that you can change them in your PMS to make your life easier and have a complete integration. One booking rule I'm really curious about, I think also hotels use it a lot, is the minimum lengths of stay. Can you explain to me why are there different kinds of lengths of stay for a hotel? Well, why? I guess to make it complicated, really, it's a question of how to interpret the length of stay restriction. You have two main options, either based on arrival date or based on the entirety of the stay. And I think also you have a great video about this explaining the details on this channel. You're right, yes, that's true. I'll link to that one up above in the cards. Yeah, great. I really think the main point is that as a property, if you do work with lengths of stay restrictions, it's important that you're aware that there are different ways to interpret it, and make sure that your channel manager and also the online platforms handle it correctly and it's aligned for how you want it to be managed. Another element I'm really curious about is auto-replenishment. Can you explain to me what it is and why it's relevant? Yeah, auto-replenish, when a reservation gets cancelled, it's really the question, what happens with the inventory? Most OTAs, as their goal is to sell as many of your rooms as possible, will reopen the inventory and sell that room again. And that function is called auto-replenish. Let's make an example. You have a reservation from an OTA and you don't have any other rooms left. You're at zero, you're booked out. When a reservation like that gets cancelled on the platform, they will automatically reopen it and try to sell that room again without waiting or without getting new availabilities from you. They will just automatically replenish the inventory. You need to be aware of this and make sure you know how to handle it. For some platforms, they actually let you deactivate it, but most don't. And then also make sure that you know how your channel manager reacts to a cancellation and to the inventory change. Let's switch gear. Let's talk about GDS. Where should I manage my corporate negotiated rates? Yeah, GDS. Yeah. So for all properties working with a lot of corporate negotiated rates, there's always this question, where do I manage them? And my recommendation is, if you have a fixed annual price with a corporation, it makes most sense to just add them directly to the provider of the GDS connection and have it managed there. Something you have to do once a year. Obviously, if you have it dynamic, then you need to manage it in your PMS or channel manager, so have a central place where to manage it. So it's really a question of balance between complexity and dynamic pricing. Depending on that, you have different choice that makes sense for you. Let's jump into something different. What can you tell me about data protection? So personal data, but also PCI. PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. So it's really a set of rules that apply for anyone that handles the credit card of others. So you as a hotel are liable for any misuse that happens with credit cards under your care, and you have to be very careful with that and aware of that. So make sure that you know exactly what happens to the credit cards of your guests at each step. Make sure, of course, that your providers are PCI compliant and take that responsibility, but also make sure that your staff knows how to handle credit cards correctly without putting your company at risk. Really, the same principle applies to GDPR, but also all the new regulations that are being passed internationally. Make sure, take responsibility, make sure that you know what happens to personal data of your guests. Make sure that you know what happens with your suppliers, but of course also how you handle it in-house. Interesting. What about price parity? Do you think a hotel should have the same prices on all platforms? I don't want to get into the legal part of the discussion because first of all, that really depends on where your property is, but also in a lot of places, it's just, there is no definite decision yet. If we talk about the sales perspective or marketing perspective of it, again, it depends. If you have a very strong occupancy at your property and your goal is to increase your profitability, it might be interesting to offer a better price for direct reservations than on the OTAs, assuming that these direct bookings cost you less. But on the other hand, you clearly have to count with a reduction in occupancy and a drop in the OTA reservations that you get. So if your goal is to increase your occupancy, I clearly recommend keeping rate parity on all channels. This said, just because you offer it for the same price does not mean that you cannot create incentives for your guests to book direct. I recommend you think very well about the tangible but also intangible things that you can offer to your direct bookers, and then make sure that you communicate them very clearly to them wherever you can. Cool. Well, we said we would do 10 questions, but the last one just popped into my head, if you allow me. Yes, go for it. Excellent. So, Content API, what is it and is it relevant for a hotel? A Content API lets two systems exchange content such as images, descriptions, and amenities using an interface. So depending on the platform, that's already possible today. So you can actually create an account, set up the account with the rooms and rates, add the images, description, and amenities and everything from zero without ever touching the extranet of the platform, all using the APIs. Again, Expedia Booking, but also Airbnb already today use these functionalities, especially in the apartment rental space. It's much more relevant. The volume of content is much bigger, and that makes it also more important that you can manage it centrally and automatically. I think for a classic hotel today, the relevance is not enormous yet, but it really gives us an idea of how in the future it can get even easier and simpler to manage and diversify your online distribution. Great, these were my 10, well actually 11 questions about hotel channel management. I really think every hotel should ask them, be aware of the facts, especially when you're implementing a new system. Thank you very much, Mr. Schoppig, for being here. Thank you for sharing your know-how with us. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. That was my conversation with Mr. Schoppig. I really hope we were able to give you some points to discuss with your suppliers, but also some more in-depth details about the channel management, the complexities, and how to deal better with them. If you're still curious and you want to learn more about channel management, I recommend you check out our basic channel management and advanced channel management videos that we've published on this channel. I'll link to them up above in the cards so you can check them out. If you have any further question about channel management, please leave them in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. If you got some value from this video, please share it with a colleague. I'm Alicia from Hotel Spider, your hotel techie. Stay tuned for the next video.